Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Diagnostics webinar for Performance and Upgrade. Today is November 29th, 2018, and this is actually in follow-up to our GE Asia Pacific conference, where we were demonstrating diagnostics. Good. I'll start with the program, an introduction of the panelist, Zoom software, the agenda, an introduction, presentation by Swami, question and answer session with the two of us, and some closing comments. Good. I'm responsible for the commercials for diagnostics. Swami is our pre-sales and consultancy. He'll also be conducting the presentation. Kurt Weissman is our product manager for diagnostics, and Koen Porteners is our solutions architect for diagnostics. Good. So this is a webinar. It's not an interactive session. So everyone has an opportunity to ask some questions, and they can do that by clicking onto the chat line. And when you click on the chat, you can just type in your question here at the bottom. And during the question and answer session, we'll be responding to all of the questions that come up with respect to diagnostics. Furthermore, we have an open chat session with some technical people. And to that end, our technical people will be online from now through till about an hour past the webinar. If you go to webchat.freenode.net, you can type in your questions and go from there. So it's put in the hashtag DiagChat, D-I-A-G-C-H-A-T, and you'll come to the channel that we're on, and you can ask your technical questions there. Good. As mentioned, we were at the GE Australia User Group Conference in Sydney this year. We were at booth number 19. During that conference, T&B had presented diagnostics, how they utilize diagnostics. I have an example from them, so we can bring that up to light as well. And it was a very, very successful conference, very busy this year. So it's very happy to see that that was going on. So I always like to start with a preface with respect to diagnostics and how it can help an organization that's implemented Small World. So we have one Dutch utility that have saved 185,000 euros per year just by avoiding slow user VPN connections. We have another Dutch utility that have optimized the configuration and implementation of quality manager rules. They were able to save 230,000 euros per year on that business process. And a Malaysian utility, T&B, saved $200,000 per year just by ensuring that indexes have been set up on their data stores. So a quote from Annexus, Diagnostics has shown that quality manager is a laborious and time-consuming factor in the registration process. By optimizing this process, we now see in diagnostics that QM activity, as well as the number of reported QM flags, has been halved, which is a fantastic result for this particular utility that depend heavily on quality manager to ensure the quality of the data is always very good going into GE Small World. Good, we're getting to the presentation part now. I'm going to let Swami take over. Swami, you're up to bat.
Okay, let me just quickly share my screen. Okay, I hope you guys are able to see this. Right, my name is, hello everyone, my name is Swami and welcome to the webinar. So I would like to start this webinar by giving you a brief introduction on what diagnostics is. So diagnostics is a big database solution which is built on top of Small World, and it tracks everything that is happening inside a Small World application. So every single user click, every single database transaction, every single map activity, pan, zoom, everything that is happening inside Small World is tracked by Diagnostics, is then processed and then made available in this easy to understand dashboards to the administrators. So using these dashboards, Diagnostics helps administrators to pinpoint and identify the bottlenecks which are there in the various functions of Small World, various functionalities of Small World. And these insights can then be used by the administrators to make changes in Small World, to which thereby drive the users to be more productive and improve the user's overall Small World experience. I would like to add here that Diagnostics is capable of tracking all this user activities anonymously. It can be configured to ensure that no user specific information is collected as part of the tracking process. So, and also Diagnostics is designed only to collect the user behavior data. What this means is it does not collect any asset or any network related data. Okay, so one very, very common question that we get asked whenever we introduce Diagnostics to a client is, okay, you say that Diagnostics is tracking everything which is happening inside my Small World installation. So it is obvious that it will have an impact on the user experience of Small World, right? So the answer to that question is no, it doesn't. Out of box, Small World has no, out of box, Diagnostics has no impact whatsoever on the user experience. So the way it makes it happen is very, very simple. The data that is gathered by Diagnostics from Small World is put on a queue and is only sent out to the analytical part of it. It's only sent out whenever the Diagnostics senses an idle time in Small World. Okay, so let me put this into perspective. Imagine there is a user who has an empty editor opened up. He is going to click on the get button to populate the editor, and then he is going to click on the go to button. So there are two actions which are involved. Okay, so as soon as he clicks on the get button, Diagnostics generates two events and stores it in a queue. The first event that it generates is the button being clicked. It generates an event which says that user named A or B just clicked on this particular button, get button, and the time and everything else. And then the second event that you see here is the query that got executed in the backend, which enabled the editor to be populated. Okay, so these two events are then stored in a queue. And once the operation is completed, and just before the user is about to click on the go to button, his second action, Diagnostics senses this millisecond of idle time. Which in Small World, and immediately sends these data out for analysis. And this is how Diagnostics is able to track everything which is happening inside Small World without having any impact whatsoever on the user experience of it. Okay, so the agenda for today would be as follows. I would begin by talking about how Diagnostics can help administrators in their maintenance efforts. Maintenance can be both reactive, which is the traditional way of doing it, and proactive, the way Diagnostics are one of the unique capability that Diagnostic offers to the administrators. The second part, when we talk about maintenance, it also applies to the data in Small World. So as part of the second section, I would be talking about how Diagnostics can help administrators to get kind of like a panoramic view of everything related to data in Small World. Next, we will look at the role Diagnostics can play in an upgrade project. And I will end it up by introducing you to the latest version of Diagnostics, Diagnostics 2.0, and to our user portal. Okay, so let's start with the first part of the webinar, maintenance. Okay, so maintenance in Small World has traditionally been done as soon as a user reports an issue to the administrator. So, but there are issues such as say adding a super file to a database before the database size runs out. So for issues such as these, it is useful for an administrator to be proactive rather than being reactive. So in order to do that, Diagnostics has something called event-based alerts. What are event-based alerts? These are kind of like triggers that administrators can place in their small world installations using diagnostics. And as soon as a particular event happens, say as soon as database size hits 80%, diagnostics, what this functionality allows administrators to do is, once diagnostics senses that the database has hit 80%, it will immediately send out emails informing the administrators that this particular data set is at 80%. You better schedule a session to add a super file to this data set. And let me give you an example for this. So what I have done right here, right now, is I have configured diagnostics that is currently running in real world in our office to send me weekly emails regarding the size of the database, which is there in in our local system. So I have this email open right here. Let me just open that for you. Okay, this is the email that I'm talking about, and it has an attachment which tells me exactly what I need to know in order to decide when I have to expand the size of my data set. The report here is kind of generated using the historical data that diagnostics has been gathering over a period of time that it has been deployed here at real world. It is divided into two sections. The upper section is kind of like a graph. The section down here, let me kind of zoom in to give you guys a better view. Okay, so the table that you see right here has 4 columns. The first column is which data set it is talking about. The last column right here, it is kind of calculated the rate at which, the average rate at which my database is growing. So today there was 1 GB, tomorrow there was 1 MB. It kind of takes an average of all these and gives me the rate at which my database is growing every day. And it also tells me what is the current occupied percentage of the database. And lastly, using these two data, that is, it knows what is the current occupied percentage. It also knows the growth rate. It's smartly using these two data to kind of tell me what is the expected number of days in which my storage, the storage of this particular data set, will run out. So administrators can use dashboards such as these, such as the ones that you saw, to be more proactive in their maintenance efforts. It can be, they can set up diagnostics, this particular event-based triggers, they can set it for anything. It's just what the user or what the particular administrators have to track. They can be proactive in their efforts using this particular functionality of diagnostics. Right. The second common challenge with respect to being proactive, the second common challenge that clients face in their small world installation is to arrive at an optimal Citrix to user server ratio, or it can be any server to user ratio. So since diagnostics is already tracking all the user load which is there on each server, customers can leverage this readily available information to arrive at an optimal user to user count per server ratio. They can have dashboards such as these. You see, we have 3 dashboards right here. All 3 dashboards are time chart based ones. The one on top tells you about the number of users per server. The second one talks about the performance of small world application. And the last one right here is talking about the performance of database in these servers. So let me kind of zoom into one server. Let's take server 1, for example. So you see around 11 AM here, there is a surge in the number of users who are logging into the server. And almost immediately you see there is a dip in the performance of the application, and there is a dip in the performance of the database database operations. If I take a look at some other server, let's say server 3, for example, you see that the performance here is great at the beginning of the day, but as the users start to come in over the course of the day, the performance kind of dips a little bit, but it still is able to maintain a steady line. So dashboards such as these can help administrators to easily analyze and arrive at an optimal server to user ratio. Okay, so these two things that we talked about was more towards the proactive capabilities that diagnostics can offer. Now let's look at the regular one, the traditional way of maintenance that which happens in Smallwood. So it is here what happens is usually user experiences an error or a performance related problem. He reports it to the administrators. Then the administrators kind of try to redo the entire things, kind of recreate what the user might have done in order to get that error, and then he goes on to fix it. So the way diagnostics helps here is it provides administrators an unique ability to literally go back in time and look at the steps one by one, which were followed by the users before he or she got the error. So it does that using a dedicated dashboard by the name Replay User Click. Okay, let's say there is a developer, okay, who is working on a ticket which was raised by a user. He goes into diagnostics, finds the event, which is event for the reported error or the reported ticket. It looks something like this. It has a lot of information which diagnostics tracks out of box. It has a lot of information, but what the developer is interested is on these. The one is the session ID. Session ID is kind of like a unique number that diagnostics provides to each user session. And the second one is the timeline when this particular error was reported or when this particular error occurred in the system. Then he uses these two information and he goes to the Replay User Click dashboard, the one that I was talking about. What he does here is he enters the session ID that he got from here, he enters it over here. There are a lot of events. So from the time the user logged into his session, all the way to the time that user logged out, every single click that he did is tracked over here. So what he does is, what the administrator does is, he kind of filters things out from this vast array of information. He filters it out using the action, the timestamp. So he goes to this particular timestamp, he sees that, and he sees that there is a database insert which has happened. These are the values which were provided for each field. There was a geometry which was provided, and when he clicked on insert, that's when he got the traceback. And how does he know that? He kind of, as simple as just compares this time with this time. And this is how he knows this is when and these are the steps that the user followed in order to get that particular traceback. This functionality can be extended to just about everything. This is an example of an error. You can extend it to find out if there is a data loss, for example. You can find out what did the user do exactly in the design. Why did this particular data loss happen? You can just go here, find out exact details on what are the steps that the user followed. What are the when he kind of tried to handle the conflict. Did he go with the child? Did he go with the parent? What exactly did he do? You can get that information from here, recreate it, and easily arrive at the root cause analysis for a particular problem. Okay, so the performance and tracking and analysis for, which is done by utilities and telcos, these are usually done in silos. In the absence of diagnostics, these are usually done in silos. So whenever client wants to identify a particular, kind of like a bottleneck in a particular functionality, say for a particular report takes a lot of time, or a particular tool is very slow in Smallwood, what they do is they kind of create this temporarily customized tools, which provides them details on the performance of various functions which are being called in the backend. And these details are usually documented in a log file or in a CSV. So if I click on a button, there were 6 steps, 6 methods which got called. If you as simple as put a timestamp across it, it will say the first took this much, the second, third, fourth, and then you kind of identify the bottleneck. And because these custom tools work in silos, it is very difficult for a client to cross-reference the data that they got from 2 different performance trackers. Say, for example, the client is able to identify that a particular query takes a lot of time to execute, and that's why this particular tool is slow. If he is able to identify that, it is still difficult for him to get answers for questions such as, okay, is this query used a lot? Do I need to add an index to it? How much every day is this are users triggering this particular query? The second one that they need answers to is, okay, this, I did identify this one tool which was getting affected. Are there other tools in my small world which are using the exact same query? So it is very difficult for them to cross-reference the data that they get from, two different trackers. The way diagnostics helps here is it kind of brings these silos together into a single integrated smart analytical platform. And the best part about this is most of the trackers that is required to do the identification, analyzation, and resolving of a performance bottlenecks in small world are provided out of box. So what this means is the administrators or the developers do not have to invest any time in creating these custom trackers. They can just open up diagnostics and go directly to the analysis part. And also in diagnostics, as I mentioned, the data which you get from one particular tracker can very easily be synergized with data that we get from other trackers to create more complex and insightful dashboards. Okay, so that was the first part. Let's look at the second part, the data issue. Okay, so data issue is very difficult one to solve for any customer. So what happens is telcos and utilities, they have a lot of activities which is happening simultaneously in their small world installation. And sometimes all these activities which are happening simultaneously, sometimes in similar part of the network, sometimes these result in data related issues. And whenever we think of data problems in small world, the most crucial one would be a data loss. Data loss in small world happens majority of the time due to the way a conflict is handled. And data loss, whenever it happens, is always identified much later in the system. And once it is identified, it's very difficult for the client to get an understanding on what exactly caused the issue. Was it a process related problem? Was it a user related problem? There is no real way for them to go back in time and visualize what exactly was the root cause of this particular problem. So again, diagnostics offers a unique solution to the data problems. By what it does is it kind of allows administrators to place trackers on merge and post functionalities in small world. And the data that is gathered by these trackers can be used to kind of inform administrators whenever there is a handling of a conflict, whenever the way conflict was handled, it resulted in a data loss. If at all this happens, diagnostics using the event-based alert, which we saw a bit earlier, what we can do, what diagnostics can offer is it using this functionality, it can immediately inform administrators that in this particular design, there is a data loss which happened because of the way conflict was handled. Let me give you an example. So let's take a look at the dashboard, the merge and post, which I was talking about. The first dashboard on top provides administrators insights on what are the collections or objects which the users have most of conflicts on. These dashboards can also be extended to be more specific. Say, for example, the second table. The second table here is kind of like a drilled down version of the one that you see on top. It has 5 different columns. First one again is talking about the data set. The second one is what are the number of changes that diagnostics was able to track in this particular data set. How many of these changes resulted in conflicts? How many of those conflicts are still not resolved? And how many of these changes has had no conflict whatsoever? So this is kind of like a drill down version of it. So how diagnostics can help here again is using the event-based trigger. As soon as it kind of identifies there is a conflict, and from the conflict it identifies there is a data loss, it can immediately send out emails, and these emails are pre-configured. You can send it out to anyone, any administrators that you want. Just pre-configure it in in Diagnostics, and the email goes out right away. Okay, so as I mentioned, yes, the complex, the data being synergized from two different trackers. This is a good example. So what we have here is the first one. We have two dashboards. The first dashboard is and both these dashboards are consuming information, one from the merge and post tracker that we saw, and second from the design manager tracker, which we developed for this particular webinar. So what the first one is talking about is the business process which are getting affected the most, which has most number of conflicts. And the second one dives a bit deeper and provides insights on the objects which are causing the majority of conflicts in a given process. So let's say this is the network augmentation. If I see here, the network augmentation is the one which has a lot of conflicts. If I drill down, I see in network augmentation business process, I see that the cable is the object which has a lot of conflicts. So administrators can design complex dashboards such as the one that you see here, and it can talk about and it can provide insights to them on anything that they want. It can be here it's about business processes. It can be about the cable, which are the fields in the cable which has a lot of conflict. They can drill down as deep as they want. So this is how Diagnostics kind of offers a unique way to the data problem in small world. Right. So let's the upgrade part. Okay. So whenever we think of upgrade, right? Whenever we think of an upgrade project, if you guys have been in an upgrade project, what happens is planning is the first stage is the planning phase. And it is the most crucial phase of an upgrade project. What utilities and telcos do here is they identify functionalities that needs to be upgraded. They identify functionalities that have to be decoupled. They identify functionalities whose performance have to be improved. So in short, what they are trying to do is they are trying to classify all these functions into one of these three buckets. We have the retire bucket, which is functionalities which are very rarely used by the users. They are going to be decoupled as part of the upgrade. Then we have the improve bucket. Here, functionalities which are quite often used by the users, but have performance related problem. These functionalities are placed in this bucket. And lastly, we have the upgrade bucket. It is functionalities which are frequently used but have no performance problems. They go directly to the next version. These functions are placed in the upgrade bucket. So the way utilities kind of do this classification is they have this long sessions with users. They call in users from different departments. They sit down with them and classify functionalities one by one. So since Diagnostics is already tracking the user behavior from day one, it already has this data that the administrators need. And where these functions already has these functions that the administrator need. So what clients can do is they can skip all the intermediate steps and go directly to the classification part. One very crucial difference, that I think is there between the traditional way of planning versus the Diagnostics way of planning is that the decisions that are made, the decisions which are made by the administrators using Diagnostics are backed by user behavioral data. They have data to back their decisions. Right. For example, so let's take these three dashboards. The first one on top is telling me which are the queries which are taking a lot of time. These queries might be improved as part of the upgrade. The second one is talking about which are the functions which are mostly used. You can reverse this, and you can also look at the functions which are very rarely used. And the last one is talking about the business process that are taking a lot of time to complete. So administrators, if they drill down, administrators can use dashboards such as these to classify every aspect of their small world installation. Okay, so the classification is done. What's next? Once the classification is done, the next step that the administrators have to do, they have to baseline the performance. Okay, so you remember the functionalities which were placed in the improve bucket, the ones which are very frequently used but had performance problems. What administrators have to do is they have to baseline the performance of the various functions which have to be improved. So the challenges, right, which administrators face in this when they're trying to do this, there are two particular challenges. The first one is clients have to have a concise list of functions which are critical to the effective use of small world system. The reason it has to be concise is this list will directly dictate the efforts that will be put in the upgrade project. If the list is long, the upgrade takes longer time. If the list is small, it takes shorter time. So that's the reason why you have to have a concise list, as concise as possible. That's the first challenge. The second challenge is they need to identify ways to measure the performance of these critical functions. And usually what happens right here is, again, they spend time to develop this custom trackers, and they are placed in silos, and then they do the performance baseline. Okay, let's look at how diagnostics helps here. Simple. Diagnostics has this information readily available. The administrators do not have to do anything. First, as we already saw, it will help administrators identify which functionalities needs to be placed where. That's the first one. The second one, it also already provides information on the baselining. What is the time that a particular function takes in the current version of Small World? How much time does it take to be executed? A button, how much time does it once it's clicked, how much time does it take for the function to be completed? Or how much time a particular query takes to get executed? How much time a particular business process takes to get completed, and so on. So with diagnostics in place, all client has to do is take one look at these dashboards and document all the pre-upgrade performance of critical functions. Also, these dashboards and the data that you see, all the statistical data, can be exported into a PDF, which clients can then attach to their performance baseline reports. Right, so classification done, baselining done. Let's say the upgrade is also done. What's next? The next is, once the upgrade is done, you administrators have to measure whether or not they got the performance that they were aiming for. Again, with diagnostics, you can do this using a simple dashboard. You can have dashboards such as these that you see here. What it is doing is it has list of all the functionalities that I was trying to track, and what it is doing is comparing the performance as it was there in the development versus the one in testing. So the development can be your previous version of Small World, whereas testing can be your upgraded version. You can just list down the functions that you need to track and create dashboards such as these, which will tell you instantly whether or not you achieved the performance objective that you were aiming for. Right, so Diagnostics 2.0, that was the upgrade part. Let's take a look at the last section of the webinar, Diagnostics 2.0. So we recently announced the release of our latest version during the Wembley Summit. And here are a few exciting things that we have to offer with the latest version. The first one, the one that we are very excited about, is the fact that Diagnostics 2.0 is fully capable, fully cloud compatible. So while clients can still opt for an on-premise solution, they don't have to move to the cloud. There is an option for an on-premise. With the current version of Diagnostics, clients can choose to move to the cloud for their analytical needs, not their entire Small World, only their analytical needs, which is fulfilled by Diagnostics, can move to the cloud. And being cloud compatible also means that analysts such as us can analyze the user behavior from anywhere in the world, obviously with proper authentication, but they can analyze it from anywhere in the world. What this means is, say if you want us to take a look at the data which is gathered by Diagnostics, say you are on an upgrade project, you want us to take a look at the data gathered and help you classify the functions into different buckets. So if you want us to do that, you don't have to provide us access to your environment. We can just sit back in our office, take a look at the data which is generated, analyze it, classify it, and just share the insights with you, right? So the third one is with Diagnostics 2.0, we have done away with an intermediate staging database. So what this means is, in the previous version, what used to happen is, the data which is gathered by Small World, it used to be temporarily stored in an Oracle or a MySQL database. And from these database, it used to go to the analytical part of the solution. So what we have done now is we have removed this Oracle MySQL intermediate database. We have removed this and we have replaced that with a very lightweight web services. So what this means is, with the current version, the infrastructure overhead which was there has dramatically reduced. And the last one, of course, is the improved scalability. So with Diagnostics 2.0 is fine-tuned to make sure that the performance that it delivers is always in tune with the user base. It's always in tune with your user base. So what this means is, it doesn't matter if you have a few users, if you have hundreds of users or thousands of users. The performance that you will see of Diagnostics will always be in line with your user base. Okay, so that was Diagnostics 2.0. Let's take a look at the user portal. Okay, so Diagnostics, as I have mentioned it several times, Diagnostics, it tracks everything. Out of box, it tracks everything which is happening inside a Small World installation. But there are many clients who want to track more. Say, for example, a client has developed a custom tool, which they have built, and they want to track what is a particular very specific function that they want to track. So what we do, the way we make this happen is by providing a very easy way to extend the tracking capabilities of Diagnostics. And it's so easy that our clients regularly use them to build their own custom dashboards. And so what we thought is, since there is a good chance that dashboard which is generated by one client might be useful for another client, so what we did is we developed a platform to allow our customers to share these dashboards with each other. We call this platform the user portal. So let me take you there. Right here. Okay, so what happens here is, this is the custom portal. You will get the link to it in the chat. The link is portal.diagnosticsincontrol.com. So we have a lot of sections here. If you go to the custom modules, for example, you see that these are the custom modules which we already have. So we have one for quality manager, design manager. We have the merge and post, which we talked about as part of the webinar. Then we'll have the super file monitor, then a lot more. In fact, the merge and post, if I'm right, yes, it was developed by one of our clients and it was submitted to us. What we do is we kind of take a look at, we do a quick validation on whether or not everything is okay. And then we upload it onto this particular portal. So you can go here and you can check out all the custom modules that we have. Any new custom modules, we do develop it quite regularly. And once it's done, you will find it here instantly. You can just download it, attach it to your Diagnostics installation, and bang, you have a custom tracking module for this particular function. You don't have to do much. Right, we also have links to the webinars that we did previously. Here is Koon. He is our technical architect. This is him talking about the Diagnostics 2.0 in Wembley. We did webinars which are very specific to the data loss issue. We did webinars on improving business processes. You can check all these out, including the one that we have right now. All these webinars, the recordings, you can find it right here. Okay, so with that, I come to the end of this webinar. I hope you guys found this insightful, and I sincerely hope that you too will one day shine the beacon. Thank you.
Thank you, Swami. Wonderful presentation. So I'm going to one second here, share my presentation. And good. And now we get to the question and answer session. So you now have an opportunity to ask questions. So if you go to the chat bar in the on the Zoom software, everyone can ask questions if there's any concerns. I'm going to start off the question and answer session, Swami. Okay. As you know, there's an awful lot of small world customers out there very pleased with the Small World platform, and they've created bespoke applications. Yeah. Now what they want to do is they want to be able to make some sort of a comparison between their bespoke application and potentially moving to a commercial off-the-shelf application like Electric Office or P&I. Okay. Do you have any comments as to how customers could potentially proceed in that direction and basically evaluate the differences that they're looking at?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to take Electric Office as an example, but this applies to just about every other P&I, water office, gas office, just about everything. So Electric Office is designed very specifically for an electric utility. So if you look at Electric Office, for example, its data model, its connectivity engines, its the out-of-box functionalities that it offers are designed specifically for electric utilities. So with that in mind, one of the key objectives for a utility who is moving to Electric Office would be to decouple a lot of their electric specific customization. And the reason why they want to do that is that allows them to bring their small world installation that much closer to the out-of-box solution. So the way diagnostics can play a vital role here is by helping administrators to classify functions, which I presented. It helps administrators to classify functions into various buckets. And this is readily available information. Remember, administrators do not have to do much. Diagnostics already does that for them, and they just have to take a look at the dashboard. So administrators can do is they can use this readily available information and can decouple. One, they can decouple functions which are rarely used, which they are going to do it anyway. Second, out of the functions which are very often used, they can find the ones which overlap with the ones which come out of box by Electric Office, and they can decouple them as well. So this is how, this is one of the key areas, key roles that diagnostics can play in an upgrade such as this.
Good. Any other questions that are coming up? I don't see any yet. So okay, I've got a question here. How safe is the data on the cloud?
How safe? Good question. Right. In fact, this is the very first question that we asked ourselves when we decided to move to the cloud, and this is the answer. So the data, obviously, in cloud is very, very safe. Let me tell you what are the safety measures that we have in place. The first one is the incoming data from diagnostics are encrypted in HTTPS packets. The second one, the dashboards which does the analysis and provides the results are only accessible through an HTTPS channel. Third one is the data which is stored on a cloud, let's say Amazon cloud, for example, has what Amazon makes sure is it provides a high data security by itself. Apart from these things that which I already mentioned, you also have data security from Amazon, and it also ensures high data availability. And the last one, although quite primitive, the access to this dashboards are restricted by a username and password. So yes, the data is very, very safe.
And the data that's on the cloud, is there any data stored from the database of Small World itself, or is it just the user actions?
No, it's just the user action. So even that you can limit it out, but diagnostics will never track, say, any asset related information or any network related information. It is designed only to track the user behavior information, nothing else.
Good. Question here, is the cloud necessary?
Not really. You don't have to go with that. Although it does offer a lot of benefits, but there are a lot of clients that we currently deal with as well who want to do it, but there are some things which stop them. So there is an on-premise solution. Nothing changes. Diagnostics, whatever the way it operates, the dashboards, everything stays as is. It doesn't matter if you are on-premise or you move to the cloud. It doesn't matter.
Good. And have any utilities moved to the cloud already?
Yes, I think 2 of them have already moved. I don't have the name yet, but I guess 2 of them have already moved to the cloud. Do you know, John, the names of these utilities who have moved? Do you remember them? On mute.
I'm on mute. No, I don't have those customer names right now off the top of my head either. But we can get that information to people if they want to send information about that. Just got a message. Cox is one of the ones that have moved to the cloud.
Yep.
And Faris, indeed, Faris has also moved to the cloud. So that said, good question. Do we have, so we talk about cloud, can we do internal and external?
Yeah, of course. I think Cox, if I'm right, is internal and Faris is external. That doesn't matter. You can go with any option, on-premise, internal, external, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Everything available.
Good. So we've got a couple more questions here. You mentioned in one of the slides that diagnostics can help analyze the data issues. What are some of the data-related anomalies that diagnostics has helped address or can help address?
Okay. So as I mentioned, diagnostics, it allows clients to just look at everything, as much as they want. Whatever is happening in their data, they can have a visualization to that. So it helps clients to identify common data errors that the users make while digitizing the data. For example, it can help them identify cases where data loss has occurred in a user design. In fact, since we mentioned Cox did a presentation in US explaining how diagnostics help them perform a root cause analysis on a data loss scenario. I think we have a recording of that as well. You can check that out. After the webinar or maybe in the chat, we can share the link to that particular video. So we have done that. There is already a use case where diagnostics has helped a client to understand why a data loss happened. And this was reported after it happened. It was not even reported instantly. They got it after it got reported. They went back, they analyzed diagnostics, looked at all the user sessions, and were able to pinpoint the root cause of that particular data loss.
Yeah, indeed. And another question's cropped up, maybe to review a little bit. in the new version, there's no need for Oracle, correct? No Oracle backend.
Nope, no Oracle backend. You can, there is web services now. It's lightweight. No Oracle.
Good. Do we need individual licenses for each session or user to record the transactions?
John, you would like to take this?
Yes, I'll take that. So we have a licensing mechanism that's based on number of named users. So when you get a license, it covers all of your users and thus can cover all of the transactions that each user executes within the Small World environment. Good. Comment, if you take a look on in the chat, we have a YouTube channel. Many of the videos are also placed there, so you can take a look at it. Just use the link that's on there in the chat there. Good. Any other questions? Any other comments? Oh, good question. How are replicas handled?
If I have a laptop, take it away, will the events be synced just like VMDS? Absolutely, it will. Yes, as long as you have you are accessing a session which has diagnostics in it, it doesn't matter. As I told, diagnostics is doing it in almost real time. So even if you take your system away, it has already done the tracking. You don't have to worry about it.
Correct. Yeah, so every user, in fact, will be tracked. Next question, what about if we have a client who own Splunk licenses? Is there any difference in the pricing scheme?
John.
There is no difference in the pricing scheme, but that does not mean that we cannot use your existing Splunk license. So we can provide a license. We OEM the Splunk environment within Diagnostics, so the pricing doesn't change in that respect. And check, any other questions? Couple more seconds.
Anyway, we already, or in case you guys think about something after the webinar, you remember we still have that the technical chat open, so you can always chat there, or you can send us an email with your queries.
Yeah. Small World version requirements. Good question. You want to take that one, Swami?
Yeah, it's compatible. Well, may I know any specific version you are looking for? I think it's 3.x up. We are compatible.
I believe it's 4.1 through till 5.
I'm sorry. It's me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's 4.1 and up.
Yeah. So 4.3 is not a problem, for example.
Yep.
Which is actually a great situation, because when you're at 4.3, you get a chance to baseline your performance and baseline your system, baseline everything within the Small World environment, and see how you want to move in terms of migration.
Yep.
So an ideal opportunity to use Diagnostics. Good. Any other questions? Okay, I think we'll close that off. Now I'm just going to wrap it up a little bit, so let me quickly share the rest of the presentation. And so we've done that. We give every customer an opportunity to try it. It's basically a contained environment in a trial environment where you get to use Diagnostics for 3 months. You can choose to do it longer, but it becomes a little bit more expensive. You get to define the 3 areas of concern that you wish to resolve, and then you receive an analysis on what we found, what the issues that you've identified. We come back with an analysis on those items for you. That will help you resolve those particular issues. There are other options if you don't want to go through the trial. There's a managed services option, a purchase option, a lease option, and of course there's some added services with respect to training and after analysis services. For the first customer that decides to move forward, whether it be a trial or a managed services or purchasing, the customer will receive 5 days of consulting free. This offer expires December the 14th, so we have a little bit longer than 2 weeks for anyone that wants to go down that track. I want to quickly review the services that we provide. We can provide a health check of your existing system. We can help define that baseline for you. So what is the starting point? And then continually upgrade that baseline as you continue to improve the system. We have a managed services environment with regular reporting and alerting, which is quite interesting. So if databases get too large or performance starts to degrade, you can receive alerts from us about that. We have customized services. So Swami spoke a little bit about the user portal, and that's where we dig a little bit deeper into customizations and business processes, data corruption issues, so we can help in those particular aspects. Diagnostics has been used as an integral part of maintenance and support, so you can include it as part of your M&S if that's what you wish. Again, we provide training, so and of course after analysis services. I think very important to mention in a managed services environment, we can do all of that reporting and all of that alerting. You could also be involved in that, so we don't exclude the customer from having access to creating dashboards and analyzing the information that's there. Good. So contact information, the website is www.diagnosticsincontrol.com. As Swami just mentioned, that tech chat line is going to be open after the webinar for about an hour. So if you have any technical questions, by all means, you can put it in that forum. If you wish just to ask us a question via email, you can do that at info@diagnosticsincontrol.com. You take a look at the chat, there's a reiteration of that, so you can see it come up there. Sorry. And we've come now to the end of the webinar. I'd like to thank you for everyone's time for attending it. And we most certainly look forward to receiving any questions or concerns you may have about diagnostics. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see each other next year. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.